In this video, I'll walk you through an exercise called Limited Palette Studies. This exercise is part of my Visual Art Fundamentals series, where I share practical studies and techniques to help you strengthen your painting skills. If you'd like more tutorials like this, feel free to subscribe and follow along. The goal of this exercise is to explore how changing just one or two colors in a limited palette can dramatically affect the final painting. To follow along, you'll need a reference image, paper and a pencil, a limited palette of paint, I'm using gouache in this tutorial, and this limited palette of paint includes black and white and two sets of primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. For example, I'm using one red, yellow, and blue from one paint set and a different red, yellow, and blue from another. If you don't have multiple versions of each primary color, even swapping out just one of the three colors will noticeably create different mixing results. If you're a more experienced painter, consider replacing one of the primary colors altogether. For example, try using an orange instead of a red or a light green instead of a yellow. This can lead to some really interesting color mixtures and help you better understand how pigments interact. You'll also need some general painting supplies like a palette, cup of water, brushes, and paper towels. I'm coming into this tutorial directly from my color wheel video, where we create a limited palette color wheel using my color wheel template. If you haven't watched that video yet, I'd recommend starting there first. If you're in a rush, you can definitely just do this video, but going through the steps of creating your own color wheel with your limited palette will help you better understand the power and limitations of the colors you're using. To start, get your first set of primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, ready, as well as black and white. If you are an intermediate painter and you do not want to use black from a tube, you can mix your own black before starting this exercise and remove the black from the tube. Divide your paper into two sections and then use a pencil to make a rough sketch of your reference image in each section. Using the limited palette of red, yellow, blue, black, and white, aim to copy what you see in your reference photo. For this demo, I accidentally grabbed zinc white instead of titanium white, and I didn't notice until I was already pretty far along. That made it harder to get some of the lightest areas, especially the windowsill, as bright as I wanted. But that's okay. The study was still useful, and honestly, working through little mistakes like this is part of the learning process. The main difference is that titanium white is much more opaque and has stronger tinting strength, while zinc white is more transparent. So if you're following along, I'd recommend using titanium white if you have it. For this exercise, I wouldn't recommend spending a lot of time on small details. Focus instead on capturing the major shapes, values, and color relationships. Once you've worked through the main ideas of the painting, move on to the second study. For the second study, swap in your second set of primary colors. In this example, I'm using a dark magenta, yellow ochre, and primary blue. While the blue is fairly similar to the one from the first study, the red and the yellow are much less saturated. Because of that, it was difficult to mix the bright, warm colors that appear in the sunlight. While I found that a little frustrating while painting, it also revealed something interesting. The limited palette naturally pushed the painting toward a more muted, earthy atmosphere. Neither result is better or worse, they simply create different moods and possibilities. Once you've completed both studies, take a step back and compare them. Notice which colors were easy or difficult to mix with each palette. Pay attention to how the overall mood of the painting changes, even though you're working from the same reference image. These observations will help you better understand the strengths and limitations of different pigments, making it easier to choose colors intentionally in your future paintings. That's it for this limited palette study. While simple, exercises like this can teach you a lot about color mixing and help you become more intentional with your paint choices. The more you experiment with different combinations of pigments, the better you'll understand their strengths, limitations, and unique characteristics. If you tried this exercise, I'd love to hear what color combinations you used and what you discovered along the way. And if you'd like to see more painting exercises and tutorials, be sure to subscribe and check out the other videos in my Visual Art Fundamentals series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.